I can't both do the webinar and have me on video. It sucks up too much juice. So that's me. So welcome. I'm with the Georgia Center for Nonprofits. So is Emily. Here is my email address. You're welcome to email me questions. So here's some key information. So we've got information up on our website. If you add /COVID-19, you got all of our resources. We are continuing to teach nonprofit university classes. They're all online and virtual. We have a bunch of new classes like management and supervision virtually, programs virtually, social media fundraising. So we have some new classes for May that we'll be posting soon and sending information about. We are doing free consulting to anybody the next 2 weeks that needs help. 1 hour, sign up. There's a link on our website where to sign up. There are loans available. So nonprofits qualify for the disaster loan. There is the link. You also can apply. You also can apply to the payroll protection program. For that, you have to go to your organization's bank, wherever you have your business checking. You have to start there. We are running listservs at admingcn.org. Email that address. She will add you. Tell them whether you want to be on the program one, the development one, or the GCN general one. So some updates on us. Since we're talking about staffing and programming, just want to spend a moment talking about self-care for staff. We actually had a GCN staff meeting yesterday where we took the whole 30 minutes to do shout-outs and tell each other how great we're doing and how wonderful everybody was. People needed a lift. So this idea, everybody's got to set up new routines and space. We were just talking about somebody lives in an apartment complex and like the residents don't know about the work from home routines. Well, now we're all home. So figuring out new routines, how you're going to work effectively, particularly my heart goes out working from home with children at home. Probably wasn't the plan, but we're all struggling through it. Create your own self-care plan. And then the other thing, if you imagine the movie Sharks, you know, they talk about Jaws. And you know, in the movie when the shark got closer and closer, there was that music that went up louder and louder, louder, louder. All of us have trigger points to manage our anxiety. And as you start to hear the shark music or Jaws music, you're getting more anxious, your triggers. You got to figure out how to meditate and calm yourself down before the music gets really loud in your head. So new routine, self-care plan, helping staff do this, helping yourself do this, helping how to manage through the anxiety. Here's one of the tips from the therapist. There's kind of two pieces. The outside, there's a lot of stuff we can't control. None of us are controlling the toilet paper at the store, how long it's going to last, predicting what's going to happen next, the actions of others. Who knew toilet paper would be the symbol for this thing? Inside the circle, what you really can focus on, this is where you have some control. Positive attitude, following the recommendations. Now we're into masks, social or physical distancing, limiting your newscast, limiting social media, figuring out how to do grace and gratitude in your life. So think about those when you're working with staff and share that. Here is the ability to do your own self-care plan. So this is a mind map. You put self-care and then all the spokes around what's your self-care. So I'm knitting in my self-care plan. I'm outside gardening because I have 25 acres to play with. I'm feeding my horses because I have a bunch of them. So my self-care, I'm trying to see people's faces. So that's my plan. You may do your own and have things that you do. So just encourage that with staffing. So I'm going to switch directions, and I want to talk about scenario planning. This is really what this is about for programs and staffing. Figuring out how to focus on what we don't know, because we have a bunch of those, and then how you might react during a time of uncertainty. How do you plan? How do you figure out sort of strategy going forward when things are evolving and changing? So I really think now is the time to create scenario plans, and I think there's two buckets. One of them is to get to June 30th. The other is the rest of the year, July 1 through December 31st. We're in for new normal, whatever that means, and we need scenarios or options to address uncertainty. I use the example, I worked in South America with the Caterpillar Foundation, setting up some programs, and I watched $250 million businesses turn on a dime with their scenario plans. They had them in the drawer. They had scenario plans for a dictator, for a populist, for hyperinflation, for deflation, for loss of currency value. They had a bunch of plans in the drawer, and I watched a dictator get elected. They pulled out the plan, and they implemented and changed the company in 2 weeks. No long meetings, no discussions, no financial projections. They knew what to do, and they went into action immediately, and they saved the company by doing these kind of action plans. That's what scenario planning is. So this is my, crystal ball. We don't know the future. I wish I could tell you, yep, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be safe. The next best thing we have is called scenario planning. So I already talked to my two lenses, and maybe there's a third, which is this recession. So I think immediate right now, I started out thinking 2 weeks. Right now, it's kind of immediate, what are you doing to get through? And I think the near term is June 30th. The next term is the end of your fiscal year. Longer term, probably the next 18 months that we're living in a recession. So 3 levels. What are you going to do till June 30th? What are you going to do to get through the end of your fiscal year? And what are you going to do for the next 18 months? Because life is not going to be the same. And we know our revenue, our funders, our donations are going to slip because of the recession, if not the crisis. So here's a scenario. And we actually have a kit on our website that is fill in the blank pages. So you start scanning the environment. What are all the warning signs? Things like, the virus spiking could be this. What happens as a result, the lack of vaccines, what's happening after school's closed to the end of the year. What's saying in your world that are warning signs to you? You figure out the indicators. What if this happens? What if this happens? You then brainstorm kind of all the options. What can you do differently? You select 2 priorities, and you go through and do action planning for those 2 priorities and budgeting and financial. You put them in the drawer, and then you get them out when you're ready and have to go to action. So worksheets exist for all of these to help you do it. Here's an example, and I'm going to, programming and staffing. What do we know? Well, how long it's going to last? We don't. We know probably June 30th, 8 weeks for sure, end of May. We know that our revenue is going to be challenged. There's crisis funds, so those of you that are ramping up because you're in the food emergency business, you can apply. You're probably going to receive grants. You're probably going to lose some other grants. The government, so the feds have the new package out, this loans. They're a bit of a hot mess. Some of us are going to get them. Some of us won't. But we know long-term the Fed's got a problem. We know the state has a $1 billion deficit. There are going to be cuts in state funding. We have these longer-term challenges to our economy. I suggest critical scenarios start at 20 and 40% cut in your revenues. I think your annual giving, donations from individuals, probably best is going to be down 20%, could be down as much as 40%. I think you're looking at government cuts that are in the 30 to 40%. So revenue challenges is what we face as an industry. So brainstorming, how long can you keep going with the cash you have? Do you have reserves? How long, how much? How much of the reserves do you want to use? What kind of reserves do you need to reopen or restructure the organization? What are the hits and increases? Do you have access to emergency funds? Do you have restricted money that you could convert to general operating? Can you get immediate funds? Do you have a line of credit? Do you have different operating funds? Are there new funds you can apply to? So what are the scenarios around program and budget impact? Do you have dedicated money for your programs, and do you have to look at that because there are changes? So this is sort of, it is a what-ifing. What if this happens? What if this happens? What's the impact on my programs and my staffing? So for programs, one of the things I highly recommend is the Mission Money Matrix. You can Google it. There are examples. There are worksheets. It is a process where you draw a quadrant and you have 4 boxes, and you put high mission, low mission, high money, low money, and you figure out what's high mission and high money, what's low mission, low money. It helps you track your individual programs and and it visually see maybe where you need to make some changes based on the criteria and where you plot the programs in terms of satellites around on this quadrant. The other question, what programs do you have that are absolutely central core to your mission? You've got to really laser focus on mission and what you should be doing for mission and get rid of the rest right now. Mission, there's short term, there's kind of emergingly come out of this. What I'm really interested in, how do you build your organization for resiliency? Being resilient means you bounce back, you've restructured enough to make it, and then you slowly start inching your way out of it and regrow your organization. We're going to slide backwards, I think, most of us in the sector, and we're going to have to figure out this resiliency question. So mission has a part of that. What can you do with programs that ensure the long-term sustainability and then the bounce-back resiliency so that you can build the organization back up to or grow it to where you want it to be? The need is a second piece of this. So those first responders, vulnerable, residential programs, homeless programs, food programs, you're ramping up. You're trying to meet just an onslaught of immediate need. There's those that go off the cliff, art, culture, after school, when school quits. They really had to close instantly, quickly. And then the third group are hybrids, reconfigured, and GCN's a great example of a hybrid. We've reconfigured enough what we do to be all virtual. We keep going every day with new stuff out there to help nonprofits. So the experts say the ramp up are the responders. They are responding. The off the cliff are the hibernators. They've gone in hibernation, and they're going to reemerge and have to decide what that reemerge looks like. And the hybrid have reconfigured enough and put some in hibernation so that they can continue. So nonprofits fit into being a ramp up and off the cliff or a hybrid. You got to figure out where your organization is, and your scenario planning will be influenced by that. So programs, first rule, retain cash. Everybody's saying hoard, protect cash because we need this for the long term. You actually can go 90 days. You can go 89 days without paying your bills before collectors start showing up. And pay a bill, you got another 90 days or 30 days to add on. Manage your cash, manage your payables, go after the receivables, but hoard cash so that you can protect the organization. Financial modeling. So what's happening with your revenue and the sources of your revenue? We have a worksheet called Revenue Analysis. It's up on our website. It would help you go through and look at all your revenue and really make predictions, some guesses, some scenarios, best, middle, and worst case about how revenue comes in, because you may have an impact on your program, either revenue by program because it's restricted, revenue because you've moved things around and you need now more general operating, revenue because need has come up and you have different things. So third, client community needs. So we have a lot of needs, very immediate in our community for food, shelter, emergency assistance. We're going to have short-term needs through June 30th. We're going to have longer term as people respond to this recession and try and live. Where are you in responding to community need, and how do you then look at your programs from the lens of retained cash, revenue sources, and modeling, and then client and community needs. And again, I'm going to keep saying, what do you need through June 30th? What do you need to do through the end of the year? Okay, I'm going to stop. So I'll do this slide, and then I'll stop. So part of this with scenario planning is establishing priorities. You have to establish some priorities related to program, related to staffing. So what programs can you consolidate, can you revise? What programs can you do now, and then can you put on a shelf and evolve back to later? Keeping staff, is it really important to keep key staff, all staff, keep staff as long as possible? How does staff impact program delivery? Nonprofits are usually 80% salary, so we want to keep our staff. What's the impact on your budget and your cash flow with your programs and your staffing? So on the right, I show you my criteria when I go through this and do scenario planning. I want to retain talent, number one, when it comes to staffing. I want to manage cash flow to make sure we can pay everybody for as long as we can. And I want to manage the budget so we're spending with what we can afford. When it comes to program, I want to retain cash. I want to meet revised revenue projections, and I want to have very focused, restructured programs that I can actually deliver, do well with less resources for a longer period of time than I probably thought about 2 weeks ago. So let me stop for a minute, take some questions. Any questions?
So far, none in the chat. Just
Hi, this is.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Zena. I'm actually attempting to get in touch with my creditors to actually see if we could get the 90 days extension. Is there a template letter that we have to write? Is there something that we specifically have to say? Because I can't get to anyone, and I'm trying to see if there's a template where I could just send it to all my creditors and my loans that we have for my agency to at least waive the 90 days so we won't have to make the payment because the funds are not coming in anymore.
Yeah, so there is a template that they use, consumer credit counseling. They've got a new name. I'd Google it. There is a standard template. I don't have it at the tip of my fingers, but I would Google it and find one of the templates from the consumer credit counseling agencies, and I would use that and send it off to your creditors. You also can send them email, or if they have contact information on their website, it's usually an email, I would send them to that. I think the other thing, so unfortunately, I've done a bunch of turnarounds. Literally, I have not paid my bills for 90 days. You get awful letters, you'll start getting phone calls. They will talk to you then. But at the 89th day, I pay some of them just long enough to, because at 90 days, you flip to creditors. So you can manage your payments gradually before you're like getting in trouble and actually get thrown into collections. And I've done that a lot to hoard cash, because when I'm doing a turnaround, I need cash to do other things. And so I don't pay the printer, I don't pay the phone bill. I really go out 90 days before I start paying them. And then I dole it out. I think, it is absolutely important that you contact them, tell them you're a C3, tell them your revenue stopped off, and it will be 90 days before you can make the payments. Everybody says that communication is important.
All right.
So we'll track down that link.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll track down that link and we will add it for the form letter, and we will add that to the replay resources on the webinar.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a couple more coming in. Thinking toward a future crisis, should we try to create a savings account? And if so, what percentage of donations should go in that account?
Yeah, I think, so I'd call it a reserve, not a savings account. We're all supposed to have 3 months, not in our checking account, so I guess savings. So I think, well, it depends on your budget. It's hard to recommend a percentage. I think you got to look at your budget, and that you need to put somewhere 10, 20% if you could manage it. Some organizations can only do 5. But yes, you need to start saving some cash. One of the things that's going to happen is that we're all kind of shut down. We're going to reemerge. It's going to cost money to reopen. And then fall's going to hit, and we're going to have to restructure. And it's going to cost cash to restructure. So you're going to need some cash to get through that. There's a question about how do you begin restructuring programs? So I have restructured a lot. So one of the places I begin is I do that mission money matrix. I build this quadrant of these 4 boxes: high mission, low mission, high money, low money. I plot and put all my programs in it so I can see what's high mission, high money, and what's high mission, low money, that's where the tough choice comes in. The second thing I do is I really look at my numbers. Where are we excelling? Where are we really fitting a need? Where are we mission focused, like laser mission focused? And where do I have programs because somebody wanted it, was an add-on? Like I really get into core and I build a circle with the core programs and then the add-on programs around it. And I look at getting rid of that. I look at staffing and staffing talent. I look at the data to see who's really delivering on the programs but has the best use by the population. And then I look at the budget, financial modeling. Who's funded to keep going? Who has a huge gap? Where are the funders switching and not interested in funding because it's not a priority anymore? So I think it's a combination of looking at your mission and the programs and the data and what you're doing, looking at staffing and then looking at money. It's where those three come together that say, okay, I need to make these changes. If there's a fourth lens, I think it's the short-term, long-term. So I make deep cuts early because it's far easier to go deep early. And then I have built up money so I can reemerge, do different things, add on, really get the organization healthy. It's almost like you have to go deep to come back out and bloom. So that's always worked for me in the past. And the earlier you make cuts, the longer you wait in the fiscal year, the deeper you have to go and the more damage you do to the organization. Any other? Okay, questions? I think I would also, for part of this restructuring, I think you need a kitchen cabinet. You need a couple board members. You need maybe the treasurer and the chair. You need a couple of really good board members. And if you have a senior person, if you have a stakeholder, client, you need 5 people. So 4 others and yourself that sit down and do this scenario planning. It's really hard to do by yourself. So in this situation, you're going to have some Zoom meetings, get together a small task force, and call it something like the Resiliency Task Force or the Rebuilding Task Force. Don't call it the Restructure because that's considered a downer. Come up with a positive name, the Future Task Force. Give it a name, find the right people, start meeting now to do the brainstorming, what-if ideas, and figure out your action plan. Okay, so here are some basic components in scenario planning, and they're just examples. So we're headed for the spike. What if you get key staff members that have become ill? Have you done cross-training? Do you all have all the passwords and the codes? Are you able to cancel and postpone meetings? Who can make decisions if the ED becomes sick? Supposedly, and I really, really hope and pray it doesn't happen, a lot of people are supposed to become ill. I know organizations where the COO and the CFO and the deputy are all sick. The organization hadn't cross-trained. So finance, development, ED, there are key functions, cross-training. Figure out, have you furloughed people? Are you doing voluntary leave without pay? So furlough scenario, that, can you combine jobs? Can you restructure things so that people will eventually come back? But right now, you're not paying them. They're going to go unemployment. So out where I live, the small community, it's a community of maybe 5,000. They went to the city workers and said, you got a choice. You can work or you can go on unemployment. You have options. We cannot force you to work anymore because of the governor's order. So a lot of them took unemployment, particularly with the new benefits, because they don't want to be exposed. Others decided to keep working. So staff members, some of you may be really broke, and you may ask staff members to use their vacation pay. I have a sister-in-law that was basically said, yeah, we're going to furlough you, but if you want to keep getting paid, you got to use up your vacation time. So other severance, if you have to pay out any severance, timeline benefits, you have to follow your personnel policies, and you will have to make program adjustments without less staff. So what are program adjustments if staff become ill? Program adjustments if you furlough, program adjustments if you lay staff off. How are you adjusting? And then just the normal adjustments to being virtual. What if you get an emergency grant? So some organizations are actually getting new cash. They're having to hire and deploy staff. They're really looking at skills. They need a lot of project managers. They're trying to figure out wages. You know, some are offering retention or bonuses if people do high risk kinds of things. Do you offer these new staff higher wages, lower wages? Are they comparable? Or is it temporary? There are about one shift to figure out if you're in the ramp up with the influx of new money. There are the two programs, the disaster loan funding, which is at the SBA. That's emergency money. If you shut down instantly and you laid off people instantly, you may be eligible for those loans, and there is a 30-year payback on those. If you had immediate impact in revenue, canceled programs, canceled fundraisers, but you kept staff on, that's the payroll protection program. So that is, you go to your bank to apply for that. Maybe you get an influx of that. So if you're hiring, define the position. Are they contract, temporarily, hourly? What's the benefit possible things? So furlough, some people are doing furlough, but letting people keep their benefits, and the agency's paying for that. All kinds of options. So eliminating contractors. A lot of organizations are trying to keep staff, and they're eliminating their 1099 folks. What functions do they play? What's the timeline? Does the contract say you have 30 days? Who takes on the work that they do? Because a lot of us have all kinds of contractors that are very important. If you actually lay staff off, what's the impact on revenue? What are the program impacts? What's the severance package? How are you restructuring both work and the program? How do you inform and message all the clients? How do you let people know that your organization is closed and that staff are not available? Key to messaging is you want to show that this is a temporary crisis and that you're going to weather this and come back strong. Okay, any questions before I get to action planning? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So your final step, you've figured out your what ifs, you've figured out kind of priorities, you've looked at mission, you've looked at budget, you've looked at staffing, you've looked at your program. Now you're ready to build an action plan. This is exactly what you would implement in the next 8 weeks. So 8 weeks plus June, through June 30th probably. What you're going to do for the end of your fiscal year, and then what you're going to do for the next 18 months. Action plan means what are the implementation steps, the actual tasks you're going to do, what's the timeline, and what's the budget. Do a financial projection that matches the action steps so that you know. This will depend on your situation. So I can use GCN. For our 8-week action plan, we are totally retooling Nonprofit University. We're 75% earned income. So if we're not earning, we're in trouble. We have all new classes coming out that fit the reality: virtual supervision, virtual programming, restructuring organizations. We're going to deeply discount because we know no one has money to at least cover our costs. So that's one action plan. Action plan 2, we're looking at the end of the fiscal years. Ours is December 30th. So we're saying, okay, recession, people are going to be tight. Can we restructure our memberships? Can we look at new ways of doing consulting? And we have 3 new products we're going to introduce that are really about restructuring and resiliency for nonprofits. So we're now designing the products, we're running the financial budgets, and we're figuring out staffing. We've gotten some volunteers to join us. We froze all our hiring. We've eliminated our contractors for now. So we've taken steps. We're a hybrid in that we still have services. We're hoping our reserve and our funding carries us for a bit. This all depends on your situation, your funding, your revenue, your reserves, the type of programming. So think about yourself. Are you a hibernator? Then you have a different set of realities as opposed to a hybrid, as opposed to a responder that's meeting immediate need. So look at the government packages. There will be more legislation passed. If you can, go to your local bank, get in line for that payroll protection program. It is a hot mess. It takes time to figure out, but knowing the SBA, they overbook the loans, they go to Congress, they get more money. And because this is about small business, it appears from the press there will be a call for more money. Work with your board of directors. Many boards are risk intolerant, so build up their tolerance for risk and help them understand, do a risk analysis. Your financial modeling is probably one of the most important things you can do to get the board to agree with you. This is a time when your board should be meeting more often than less. Some boards have gone to weekly calls, some have gone to every other week, some have gone to monthly. But the idea that the board can meet 4 to 6 times in the next year is not going to cut it for this. They need to be engaged, and they need to be asking questions, and they need to be helping you. So what to do? So draft scenario plans really to figure out what you can do. You can use the scenario plans to show them to funders to show that you can weather this. Review them with the key board members and the chairs. Get the boards to give you feedback. Get them to sign off and adopt them. Review with that. If you have large enough for a management team, check out your assumptions. Get help on the action plan. Get staff buy-in. So engaging them in to do this. So we have teams, and our full program team is working together in order to build out the new products we're looking at. Hold it confidential. So you don't want rumors starting. You're going to close. You're not going to make it. This is going to happen. Ask people to keep your scenarios confidential for now and share only what you need to share. So decide what you're going to implement. For right now, get going on your June 30th. The other part goes in the drawer until you know more. You can update the plan as this evolves into April and May, and we see what the rest of the fiscal year is going to look like. We have a lot of unknowns. So I keep talking about it, and I'm by nature a planner, I will confess. So think through the impact on your programming and your budget, which leads you to staffing, the crisis, the immediate, the near term, which now is June 30th, the long-term recession, fiscal year 18 months. How do you restructure your organization for, I say, resiliency, so that you can bounce back, have an organization, set the platform to eventually rebuild? You may have to get smaller before you can get larger, particularly if you are a hibernator and have had the off-the-cliff response to this. Questions?
Yes, this is Zena. Again, I apologize if I keep asking questions. My question is, I have been on several webinars, and I was advised that if we apply for the PPL, that we cannot apply for the additional loans from the small business loan. Is that correct, that we only can submit one application?
So there's a difference. You can apply to both. You can only receive one.
Okay, so
given the mess in the PPP, I might think about applying for both, particularly if you laid off people and lost revenue immediately. You can apply for both. You cannot take both.
Oh, so what I did, and I actually resent it. I told them not to process the application for the small business loan because of the PPL. So I need to contact them again and just tell them to process that one, because what's happening with the PPL, I'm with Wells Fargo, and they're no longer accepting applications.
Yep. They were only open over the weekend. I've been watching Wells Fargo since Friday. They opened briefly, and they actually they had so many loan requests, it hits up against their loan to asset ratio, which is a federal law that they have so much in cash, and they hit that ratio, and legally they cannot lend anymore. So until they fix their own balance sheet, they can't make any more loans. I think the feds are going to come in and rescue them. So keep looking at Wells Fargo every day, 2-3 times a day.
Okay.
Some of us got notices at 4 in the morning. I mean, literally. Wells Fargo, it's probably, they're saying this mess will get straightened out midweek, end of next week. So keep checking it at least twice a day.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions I can help with programming savvy? I wish I had I wish I had a magic wand. I wish I could make it go away. But I think now that we're, 3 weeks into this thing, it's time to get pretty realistic about impact on us as nonprofits and what we can hope to accomplish between now and June 30th, what we can hope to accomplish the rest of our fiscal year. The funders are really trying to figure out what to do, but they are being clear they cannot rescue all of us. So with this, I say draft your plan in any format. You can use our worksheets, you can use your own. Work with a financial person, either work with a consultant, call us at GCN, it's free right now. Work with your auditor, work with somebody that really helps you figure out some modeling on your revenue to see what you have to work with, and then see what that does to your expenses and start playing out the best, middle, and worst case scenarios. For now, you can put it in the drawer if you don't need to implement. Be sure, ask your board for help, get them engaged, because there is a fair amount of risk for this. And I think it's also understand your type of organization, the responder, the hybrid, or the hibernator. That's going to dictate different kinds of plans for ones of us that are in different sectors. So arts are going to have to figure out how both to retract, but all come out of this with the right performances so they can build cash again. They're going to be in a rebuilding mode because they're in the hibernator. Responders are just overwhelmed and trying to apply for all the emergency money and gear up and get staff and volunteers. And the hybrids are restructuring, reconfiguring every week in order to do and deliver some services and close some services. Any questions? Chat room, you're kind of really quiet on me. So chat room, anything? Any questions that you might have? Any way I could be helpful? I know this is tough, and many people are using the rapid response, and there are 3 of us up on the website. We're all thinking through. I did one yesterday where 3 board members signed up to do it. I've done them with board and staff. I've done them with development and ED, whatever configuration. You're welcome to use that and get a hold of us. I think in the small nonprofit, like under 5 people kind of staff, I think you're in for a really difficult time, and really hoarding cash, coming up with scenarios about how you kind of rebirth your organization will be important. And you have to engage your board members. You just need that extra talent to help you get through this. Any questions? So people are saying their insurance providers gave them a break on the programs that they've closed. So think about your insurance provider. Again, think about where you can save cash and eliminate contracts, withdraw, constrict. So that's a great idea to get the insurance if you're not doing certain programs. And particularly like kids in daycare, think about the heavy insurance, but you have no kids in daycare. You might be able to suspend insurance for 2 months and the cost of it. I think you have to go through. If you apply for disaster money, you have to list every single creditor you have. It's good discipline. There is a liability worksheet that is on our website. It's a Google Smart Sheet that you can fill out and use for that application. But it's a useful tool to list it out and think about, okay, who do I owe money to and how can I constrict, do payment plans, renegotiate contracts.
This is Zena again. What is the name of that form again? I would love to use that form. And then with that information that
Called
you
the
just gave me-
liabilities form. Liabilities form.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
The link, it's a Google Smartsheet, so there's a link on our website to it.
Excellent. I have another question. I'm sorry that I keep asking questions, but I just need some clarity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so here's my question. So our niece is, we get funding from a federal government, and of course we're waiting to see if we get the loan. But I have 5 employees that are contractors, right, with my Ryan White grant. And by them being contractors, I know the policy stating that they can get unemployment. Are they able to also apply for the PPL as a 1013, as a 1099?
They 1099. Yes, they are eligible. I don't think they'll ever get to the line on the 1099 unless they owe the bank money. Yeah, the PPP, the payroll protection, the 1099s are going to be last in line, but they can try it. They should get in the unemployment right away. And if you have to file, so if you've got people wanting unemployment, you, the employer, have to file weekly for them to get the extra benefits. So the state put in extra money, the feds have put in extra money. And to access that money, every week you have to go in and fill out your unemployment for that week. Usually you just do a separation notice and you're done. They change the rules to access the new money. So they're not going to get it unless you fill out the form. So go to unemployment, find the form for employers, and make sure you go in every week. And they can get all the extra unemployment.
Okay, so when I went to do the unemployment, it was only opened up for employees. It did not allow me to put my 1099 contractors into it.
No, there's an employer. You're in the wrong portal. There's one just for employers. It's a whole different portal.
It's a whole different portal. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, don't go to the employee one. Go to the employer one. You should already have an account with labor.
Yes.
Filed wage. Yeah, it's that portal. So somebody asked a really good question about reserves and that you've never had a line of credit. Is that going to put us at a disadvantage now? Yes. I know nonprofits that have lines of credit and they're getting approved for PPP because they had an existing loan with the bank. The banks are trying to protect the people that have already borrowed money because they don't need a huge number of defaults. So they are the priority for the PPP loans. The fact that you've been great stewards, and I know a lot of boards hate lines of credit, but it's not like you're going to be, the PPP won't penalize you when you apply. The problem is the bank's not going to let you apply. They have set criteria. First phase is everybody that's got a loan with them. Second phase, business online banking. Third phase, which they'll never get to, is anybody else. So, and Emily posted, we have a really good webinar on unemployment compensation done by 2 lawyers. So please apply. Please watch it. Sorry, apply. Talking about loans too much. All right, any other questions? I'm going to call it a wrap. Thank you very much. Please stay healthy, take care, and we're here to help if we can in any way. Please let us know if there's anything we can do.